All right, we're just here in our studio. See, but the good thing now is that whether you're Jimmy Fallon or me, everyone pretty much has the same studio. And Mr. Anthony Ramos just joined, and I'm gonna request him now. And he is Mr. Anthony Ramos, who's in the green room right now, waiting. And he should be popping up any moment now. Oh, Mr. Ramos.
There you are.
Oh my God, look at your set. It looks really good.
Dogs are barking, and they haven't barked the whole time, but now of course they are.
Now they're what?
Now my dogs are barking, of course, and there's no way to. It's just they were.
They're excited.
Hold on one second. It's a little. I can't really. It's like a little. Hold on one second.
Okay, now we're too much technology, Anthony.
I know. Can you hear? Sorry, it's something with AirPods. It doesn't work. How are you?
Good. How are you? You look, and whatever lighting you're using for this, you look great. There's like a beautiful ring light on you right now.
Just the natural light of my house. No, I'm just kidding. There might be a ring light situation happening.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for being with us today and doing the show.
Course.
Just to give a little background to our viewers and listeners, Anthony Ramos is the head of talent for GLAAD. And I have my definition of GLAAD, which is an incredible organization rewriting the script of the LGBTQ narrative in the world and in media. But how would you describe it? I mean, you're in the trenches.
Yeah, so GLAAD is the world's largest media advocacy organization working for LGBTQ acceptance. So what that means is, what makes us different, because there's a lot of different organizations, which is so wonderful, that are working toward LGBTQ rights. But what makes GLAAD different is that we work with and through media to make sure that there are inclusive and accurate and thoughtful stories being told, because obviously we know that representation matters. So what that means is, we're working with film studios, we're working with musicians, any sort of media, and that obviously now includes video games. We are working, behind the scenes on one hand to make sure that the stories are being told and that they're being told properly and accurately. And then the second part of it is that we are, when there is a film or a program or an artist that's doing something amazing, we, really want to amplify, the work that they're doing, because, so much of, we found that so much of what people decide in their own mind is based on what they see on TV or what they hear on the radio or what they, see at the movies. So our big focus is obviously to make sure that media is being inclusive for LGBTQ people and that our stories are being told.
I love that. Wonderful. And you know what? To actually add to what you're saying and to find out a little deeper, right? So walk me through, and I'm sure there's different permutations in how you guys work, but let's say there's Netflix, right? And Netflix is now making their own programming. Do they contact you, for example, to say, hey, is there any kind of message that you want us to include in a movie? Or do you guys contact them and just say, hey, we hear that you have a project coming out? How does that work?
So, I mean, the good thing is that, GLAAD has been around, for 35 years. And so the difference of the way that GLAAD began was really, it used to be, we used to shake our finger at people and say, this is what you're doing wrong. And basically GLAAD was created out of response to the negative headlines during the HIV and AIDS crisis. And so what GLAAD was in the beginning is very different than now. Now we're all about celebrating and amplifying the good stuff, because there is so much. So to answer your question, we always say, and we have a lot of my colleagues in the entertainment media team, their entire job is to work with these studios. But like, so basically, for an example, we always say bring GLAAD in early. So basically, as soon as a project gets greenlit, before scripts are even written, call us, tell us what, the stories are, who the people are, and then we really can guide, the direction of it. Because essentially, the earlier we're brought on, the better. Because, if something's already written, of course we can say, it's not appropriate to use that word, or you really should have a transgender character, or you really should have a transgender writer if you're going to be telling a transgender story. The earlier, the better. So the good thing is that, with the team and entertainment, we really do know everyone. And so, especially with people like Netflix and Apple TV Plus and Amazon and, obviously ABC and all the other studios, they know us, they come to us, and, they respect, our input. And so that is, that's the first step of it. And then obviously, for example, when the show, that's like and that's when something is being developed and made. And then once it is made, if obviously we like the finished product and we think it's something that was done well and, represents the community well, then we use, our platform to, to celebrate it. And, GLAAD does its own interviews. I do them all. And, we really are our own media outlet for, these very inclusive projects.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, it sounds like it's what started out as kind of like a policing structure.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of like a partnership, right? And
yeah, that's exactly right. I always say, we always, the term media watchdog always follows us, which is totally fine because we are watching the media. But, it was, GLAAD in the beginning, it was definitely, people, the founders were, like I said, they were responding to a lot of problems in the media. And there are obviously still issues in the media, but now GLAAD, the new version of GLAAD in 2020 is really about working to make sure that there is good stuff out there being made. And then when there is, that we want to celebrate it and make sure as many people see it as possible.
Wow, man. It's so amazing how like now, and it's always going to keep evolving,
Yeah.
It's never, because I was watching old episodes of Sex and the City, which was, maybe 14, 15 years ago or whatever. And like Kim Cattrall's character would say nonchalantly the word tranny, and I was like, wow, like that it's just interesting seeing how culture evolves and language evolves, and there needs to be entities like you guys to be like, hey guys, this doesn't work anymore. Let's work together on what could.
And obviously, like you said, that word is not a word that we use, and we discourage people from using it. But we also are here, as queer identities evolve and, you know, more people get to know what non-binary is and what pansexual is, you know, there's a lot of terms, the queer community is, you know, that word in itself is not even a word that fully people think is, you know, acceptable. And obviously, you know, in this new day and age, the queer community, many people prefer that word. So, you know, and that's with, you know, with these content creators, you know, whether it be a big film studio or even with video games, there are a lot of, there's a lot of terms and a lot of identities, which is so great. And sometimes, you know, for someone that may not be of the community, it can be confusing and they need help. So, and we're always, you know, willing to, you know, partner and educate. We have an entire section of GLAAD called the GLAAD Media Institute, which is really what they do. All they do is work to educate people, whether it be a big film studio or a TV network, or it could be a group of people, you know, in Las Vegas or Chicago. We do trainings, you know, all over the country just to really educate people on, you know, all the letters and what they mean and all the terms. So, because it is a lot, you know, and like we're the first to say that, but we obviously want people to get it right and to, you know, just be as educated as possible, because, you know, that's the key.
Got it. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Anthony, I want to talk a little bit about, obviously, the big pink elephant in the room that is COVID-19 for you guys and what's happened and what has been the GLAAD experience and the GLAAD initiative during this trying time?
Yeah, well, you know, the unfortunate thing is that, you know, because, you know, GLAAD is a nonprofit, and so we really do, we exist through fundraising, essentially. And so two of the, largest fundraisers for us are the GLAAD Media Awards, which, are the largest LGBTQ charity gala every year. And so we have a ceremony in Los Angeles, we have a ceremony in New York, and obviously just like every other event in the world, they had to be canceled. And so, what that means is, the money that we raise in that room is collectively for both ceremonies about $2 million. So that's a lot of money that we were not able to raise. Fortunately, GLAAD is, we're still surviving, obviously, but, that's a big chunk of money that we didn't make. So obviously, just like everyone else, we had to get creative and figure out ways that, we could do things digitally. And so I think right now, like what we just came off of on April 26th was this event live stream. It was called Together in Pride, You Are Not Alone. And, because it was important for us to really have an event that was the LGBTQ response to COVID-19, because, for example, like when we saw the presidential debates, we didn't really find that they were addressing LGBTQ rights or topics that concerned our community. So GLAAD, back then we decided we're going to make our own debate, and we had a debate with all of the candidates. So kind of along that same thought that, there were a lot of these fundraisers for COVID relief, which is so amazing. But we were like, no one is talking about how this is specifically affecting our community. So we did this entire live stream event, and really, it wasn't a GLAAD fundraiser. What we found is that GLAAD, with our presence, we thought it was extremely important to benefit organizations all over the country that were on the brink of closing. I'm talking about the small town LGBTQ center that is probably feeding kids in Arkansas, for example. There's a lot of those that are literally their doors are going to close if they don't get funding. So what we did is we partnered with an organization called Centrelink, which works with over 250 different smaller LGBTQ community centers that do all sorts of work. Some people are helping LGBTQ people find jobs. Some people are, feeding, LGBTQ youth that have not been accepted by their family. Some are specifically working with, transgender people to get them, jobs and make sure that they get, the proper, success and to be set up, for success in the world. So we wanted to do an event like that would really not just benefit GLAAD, but really just every organization and that really needed help. So, that's just kind of been what we've been doing. I mean, that's what we do best is we help and support, the community when in need, and we're continuing to do that. Everything that we do is going to be digital for the time being, just like everyone else. So I think the biggest thing for people to remember is that how does that COVID-19 affect LGBTQ people differently? And I think my answer to that would be is that, LGBTQ people are a marginalized community to begin with. There's already an isolation feeling for a lot of people that don't feel accepted or fully, whether it's, by their families. And so, a lot of these people are forced to be in these isolating situations, potentially with themselves. And that means that they can't be out with, their chosen family and friends where they, receive so much support. Or it also means that for, maybe some of the young people out there that they are, hunkered down at home with family members that may not fully, accept or understand, their identities. And so that's going to be the key with Pride, is to make sure that we're coming up in June, that we are reminding everyone that we are here, we're doing stuff. And because we want people to feel the connections, because that's the hardest part. I think for so many of LGBT people, they find comfort and support in, their friends and people, not necessarily, their immediate family members. And, it's unfortunate that, so many people are not having those important interactions. So we're just really looking after everyone and trying to make sure that they, still feel the love and feel support, because it can be really scary.
Yeah, it's so scary. And I love what you're saying, because these stories and conversations, they need to keep being told, especially during this time, because, I think, listen, as far as like media production, everybody is impacted, right? Like,
of course.
I don't know how, they got to figure out structures on how to do shows and what are shows going to look like when people can't be closer than 6 feet away from each other and whatnot. But that's one of the things that brought you and I together, that obviously we're in the midst of creating a structure for the Social Networth as a show. And obviously production has been impacted because, you know, we went from ideas of having a day with these content creators, BTQ, to now thinking like, wait a minute, no one can be really with each other. So, but I do think it's important to keep exploring, even with the whole COVID-19 situation, how to keep those stories happening, even if it's kind of like what you and me are doing, people still talking about their experiences, and maybe more specific about their experiences with what's going on today.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, especially, you know, with Pride coming up, because we're already in May, which is, you know, so crazy.
So crazy.
Yeah, I know. But actually, on one hand, I'm like, the further we get, I was like, the better. Hopefully, the more time.
The further we get from the cold, the more this thing is not.
Exactly. Yeah. But with Pride specifically, you know, we are doing a lot of things that we're going to be announcing soon that are really aimed at telling queer stories about people and having their voices be heard in different ways. So I'm really excited to see, for everyone to see that. We have a lot of new ways that we're doing that with some partnerships that we're going to announce, which, you know, it's great. I mean, you know, on one hand, it's like, you know, a lot of people are accessible because everyone has to be home. So we've been working with celebrities and also, you know, the quote unquote everyday person to kind of tell their stories about, you know, their experience, how they're handling things. But I think Pride is going to be, you know, as much as I would love to be at a huge festival, you know, I think it's going to be a really successful digital venture that we're doing. So that'll be great.
Yeah, this is definitely forcing people to get very innovative and figuring out what content and event. Yesterday, actually, I saw somebody sent me an article about Germany had its first like drive-through rave. It's just like
that's amazing.
Kudos for the inventiveness, but I was like, wow. And you can see the DJ, and like it was like being at a drive-through, like a drive-through concert, you know.
Yeah.
So and then another friend of mine owns a marketing gifting suite, and they're gonna start having these Zoom gifting suites with the celebrities just gonna pick their items on the Zoom call and have like a virtual walk, and then they're gonna be shipped the perfume or the makeup, and then they're gonna do a tag with it, and it's a whole new world.
It is, I know, and then they'll have to, obviously, it's like, that's the thing, it's like all about being, you know, as safe as possible, because it's like, I know everyone says this, but it's like, the longer that everyone just obeys the rules, it's so hard and annoying, like, the sooner we'll just get out of this. I feel like, in California at least, there's a little bit of, like, glimmer of hope as things are starting to change a little bit, but, you know, it's gonna be a while, obviously, before. But I'm all for a virtual gifting suite. That sounds like a great idea.
You're like, how do I get that code?
I know. I'm like, what do I?
You know, I talked to him. Anthony, tell us a little bit about, like, and obviously, you know, we're in the zombie apocalypse is out, so it's a little different now. But as the head of talent, walk us through your day and what that entails, because I know it's a very fascinating position and career title, but tell us a little bit about your experience with it.
So yeah, I mean, basically, you know, my background before joining GLAAD, I was at Access Hollywood for a very long time. I was a producer and contributor on, you know, I did mostly fashion and music and reality show reporting, and then obviously produced behind the scenes. So, you know, throughout the years of, I mean, I was there for, you know, 14 years, and I really just, you know, I always say, like, I got to, like, know everyone in the business, and, you know, whether, you know, and so what happened is that I really, you know, wanted to, you know, take the kind of connections I had with celebrities and do something that was a little bit more purposeful. So as head of talent, essentially any sort of relations that involve celebrities, whether it's attending our award shows that hopefully we will be having again soon, or if it's any of our fundraisers, if it's initiatives, you know, because, you know, we found that, you know, people pay attention to celebrities, and that's how you get their attention. So any sort of, like, getting GLAAD involved with any sort of celebrity, that's all through me. So, you know, like last year, having Beyonce and Jay-Z and Madonna, you know, honored at our award shows, you know, that's a tremendous opportunity.
For the people that don't know, that are watching, who are Beyonce, Madonna, who are these people?
Yeah, exactly. Just what any other one namers, Beyonce, Madonna. But you know, the thing is though, it's like, you know, the why it's important to like for an organization like GLAAD to interact with celebrities is, you know, when Beyonce is on stage at our award show speaking directly to the communities that are affected by HIV and AIDS, you know, that's specifically communities of color. Like that is the reach of that is it's not just in the room. It's not for the 1,000 people that are there inside the room. It's the billions of people that will see that message online and, you know, feel the support of someone like Beyonce saying, I support, you know, the community. And essentially, you know, like having allies like that is so important. But, you know, we also have, you know, honored people like Andy Cohen. We were going to honor Janet Mock this year, which we definitely are still going to honor her at some point, obviously, when the world tells us we can do that. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, any sort of like campaign, but at the same time, it's like, it's not just the big events. It can be something like, you know, Barbara Streisand, you know, sharing a tweet saying that she supports the community during COVID-19 or something, you know, so any sort of, public facing work with, you know, a notable person, that's all in my world. And, you know, it's great. I mean, it's amazing to kind of just see how celebrities can, you know, change the conversation and get really passionate. You know, right now, actually, Adam Lambert has an eBay auction that's ending tomorrow morning that he's had for a week. And essentially, he donated 15 of his outfits that are all getting auctioned off on eBay, and 100% of the proceeds are going to GLAAD's COVID-19 work, which is unbelievable. And it's already up to like over $25,000, which, you know, will allow us to do a lot of good work for those, you know, the people out there that really need the help.
So do you sit together with your team and you guys discuss ideas, creative ideas, and then you're like, okay, let me talk to Adam, let me talk.
Yeah.
Kind of how it works out?
Yeah, and it's definitely like a collaborative effort. I mean, what I love about GLAAD is they trust me. They you know, if I think of it like, you know, an idea, and I think it's a good idea, they fully support. You know, I feel like I have a lot of creative. They empower you to be very creative. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously a collaborative thing, and you know, sometimes I'm like, oh, like for example, like Orville Peck, the artist, came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, we have to like, you know, do something with him. And we were going to do something at the Media Awards, which were canceled. But, you know, it's just, I like really, you know, pride myself in being very tuned into like a lot of the entertainment world. It's just something that I enjoy. So yeah, it's always just kind of keeping my ears open about who we could potentially, you know, collaborate with and hopefully get you know, get public people to support, you know, our community.
I love that. I love that. You're a connector. I'm a connector too.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that after, you know, I've been in LA also for 16 years, and my greatest wealth has just been building relationships, you know, and
yeah.
And you know, when you go through life and you do good things for people and you deliver, people remember that no matter where you go, and then it kind of sticks, right?
100%. Yeah, you know, I always said like, I always used to say, I was like, nice guys finish first, not last. Like, because yeah. It's like, you know, relationships are important. And in this business, that's what, you know, when people ask me like, oh, like, you know, they ask me for advice. I'm like, just like have a good reputation, be nice to people, make them feel like they're the most important. And, you know, that's like something that I have.
Well, it's not that hard for people like you and me. We have to remember that too. But I think for some people, it is hard. I want to talk to you about, have you watched Hollywood yet? The new Murphy?
I watched it all.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit, but I want to create the context for the people that have no idea what it is. So Hollywood is the new show by Ryan Murphy on Netflix, which pretty much follows and chronicles the story of actors in the studio system back in the 50s, correct? 40s, my God, in the 40s. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting, Anthony, and I want to get your opinion on it because like it's so like your realm, right?
Yeah.
GLAAD and the message about LGBTQ and everything. But it's what's kind of fascinating. I was having a conversation with a friend about it yesterday. Is I remember being little, and I was in Venezuela, and I would tell my parents I want to be an actor, and even then, I remember like it was a known thing that there was so much kind of sexual predatory behavior from like
The casting couch.
the casting couch. And my mom and my dad would say, no, you see all those actors, like, you know, whether the Brad Pitts or whatever, they're like, they all had to sleep with the producers and all. And I was like, you're crazy. But it's amazing how the show does touch on almost urban legends that I'm sure were very true. And obviously look at us now, right? The Me Too movement and Time's Up, which kind of came after Enough is Enough. So I wanted to, so now that we created the context of what the show is, and I wanted to hear your opinion about it and how you feel that LGBTQ community is portrayed and just your thoughts.
Yeah, no, first off, I mean, you know, Ryan Murphy is a genius. He's someone, and I apologize, there's a clock going off, but I mean, it adds drama to all of this. Ryan Murphy's a genius, and there really is no one better when it comes to creating storylines about queer people, about marginalized people. He really does everything so well. And also Janet Mock directed a couple of those episodes. But I think with this series specifically, what's so interesting is it's a fictionalized telling of Hollywood in the 40s. If you know, minorities, gay people, women, Asian people, people of color were given equal opportunity, like, or, you know, if they would have been allowed and supported to do things just like the white people that were.
You cut off there a little bit, so just in case we lost that. It's very important. So you were saying, it's sort of it's a hybrid of things that really happened to a fictional. What would it happen if the marginalized people would have had opportunities that they did?
Exactly. It's like, what if Hollywood in 1940 actually gave people a chance that weren't just, you know, white and straight. So basically, you know, we see, and I don't want to give anything too much away, but, you know, it's basically a version of Hollywood if minorities, women, gay people, you know, Asian people, Black people were given the same opportunities and the same chances that, you know, just the straight white people were. And so I think what it does, my favorite part about it, and I don't want to spoil too much, is that when we see the people, you know, a gay man or a woman getting an award or getting celebrated or getting that part, we see in the series how it would have changed people, because you see people, the younger generation that see a Black woman winning an award and say, oh my gosh, I can do that. Or a gay man walking the red carpet, you know, with his boyfriend and, you know, and seeing. So can you imagine how different the world would have been if in the 40s, young people would have seen that? And you know, and it's just, you know, obviously it's, you know, it's evolving and changed now, but it's just, I think that was what, for me, was like the most resonating part of it is like the impact of like what would have happened if people actually got to see a Black woman, you know, in a leading role for a big studio film.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, I remember this. I remember perfectly when I was like, I think 18 or something, and I was on my way to the gym and I was watching Dawson's Creek, and then all of a sudden the one of the characters came out, and like I dropped my whole day, and to feel so related and identified with a character on media is just, it's what you know what I mean. It creates this kind of self-empowering, of acceptance, of self-forgiveness, of forgiveness. It ripples, right? It has this immense quality of change and positivity.
Yeah, and I think Hollywood was so well done, and that was the thing. It's just like, you know, it's like all about what if people of color and minorities were given the same opportunities as white people, and I think he does such a good job of showing how, you know, things would have been different and the impact, and people would have, you know, they would have thought that they could do anything. You know, we didn't see that happen, you know, until 1999 with Halle Berry, like winning. She became the first, you know, Black woman to, you know, win the leading actress Oscar. So, you know, it's what if it would have happened in the 40s? So
yeah, no, absolutely. One final question, Anthony. Do you seem like a pretty positive guy, but
Thanks.
do you think that this whole crisis is going to leave us in a better place?
I do, and I remember my grandmother said to me a long time ago, everything happens for a reason, and I have believed that my entire life. And obviously, it's extremely hard to understand that when we're going through something like a pandemic. But I think at the end of the day, the only thing that you can do is try and stay positive. And I think that, I find even just in my limited interactions with people, whether I'm walking my dogs, responsibly outside with my mask, but I find that even if you are passing someone, there tends to be a little bit more of a connection and a sort of like friendliness about people. So I really hope that, people just are kinder to one another after this. And once we get through everything, and that's the most important thing for me, is to always just, be kind to people. And I hope that, people feel a little bit more connected, because it's so overused, but we are all in this together. But I hope that, people just understand that, everyone is the same and everyone should be treated the same. And, you should be kind to everyone, that you can. And I think that hopefully, if anything good came out of this, is that people start to kind of think that way and realize that this is kind of like level the playing field, and, everyone is the same, and, we need to be as, good to people, as we can.
Yeah, from your mouth to God's ears. I love that.
Thank you
for that, Anthony. Any last things that you want to say about how people can get involved with GLAAD and what initiatives they can be part of? Let us know right now.
Yeah, so I think, if anyone out there, GLAAD is all over social media. We have an amazing, it's not a team, it's one person, Brendan, that does our social media, and he's amazing. But he does such a good job at really just keeping everyone informed on what's important and what's going on in the community. So GLAAD on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, now also on TikTok, as everyone else is joining TikTok. But it is really, I think, follow along with GLAAD, because, like I said, as we head into Pride, I really want everyone to see what we've got going, because, I think we've got some really good, innovative stuff that will be, a close second to having the big old Pride party.
I can't wait for that. And Anthony, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Pleasure, and I'm sure I got so much out of it, and I'm sure so many people did. And thank you for your hard work and your heart in such an important cause that makes such a difference for so many of us. So thank you.
My pleasure. It's good to see you, and hopefully you and I can do something in person at some point.
We will. Well, oh yeah, it'll take a minute, but we will for sure.
All right, cool.
Take care, buddy.
All right, talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.